that we are live, ladies. It is Tea Talk with the Sisterhood. Ladies, ladies, throw your teacups in the air. Mine's kind of hot.
I have an invisible cup.
Yes,
Golden oldies, I guess.
It's Tea Talk with the Sisterhood. Thank you for joining us. Today is going to be a marvelous topic. Oh, but before I even get into that, join the Tea Talk with the Sisters each and every Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And I always say 2 p.m., but the sisters get on me because 2 p.m. turns into 2:30, sometimes 2:45, sometimes 3 p.m. But join us every Wednesday from 1 p.m. until to discuss pertinent issues in the community. My name is Dr. Oya Mayat, and I'm always here with a panel of my sisters. I'll let them introduce themselves. But before we get into the introductions, I want to pay homage to the ancestors. We always pay homage to the ancestors. So all praises to the ancestors, for we understand that we are incarnations of them and we stand on their shoulders. And the sisters and I, all of us, we understand that not only are we representations of our mothers and females in our families, but we are also representations of females, you know, prior to our physical existence in the diaspora and on the continent. So we stand on the shoulders of the divine line of females who fought for the liberation of our people. So when I call their names, please say Ashe, Yasatiwa,
Ashe.
Ashe, Queen Nzinga,
Ashe.
Harriet Tubman,
Ashe.
Queen Nancy.
Ashe.
Ashe.
You sisters like to call out other names of sisters that you stand on their shoulders, other names of queens, warrior queens.
Yeah. Martha Jenkins. Ashe.
Ashe.
Maybelle McCrae. Ashe.
Ashe.
Anyone else? Evelina McFadden.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Myrtle Bailey.
Yep. Ashe.
Ashe. Dr. Frances Cress Wilson.
Yes. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. So again, my name is Dr. Oya Mayat. I'm the co-founder and president of Ed Anime Productions. Can all of the sisters, minus the guests, introduce themselves to the viewers?
Peace and love, beautiful people. This is your celestial sister and sacred sexpert, Raziki Zafira, in the building.
Peace, family. This is your celestial sister. No. Wakeisha. Your sister Wakeisha L in the building. Let's get it popping.
All right, so today we have a special guest coming to talk to us about a special topic. We have with us this afternoon Sister Gina Mitchell, who is a student at the University of New York, who is studying to be a social child psychologist. Okay, so today's topic is going to be understanding the effects that divorce has on children. And now this sister reached out to me back in November, I believe, of last year. And she interviewed me and she wanted to know if I was a product of divorce, because she brought to my attention that most of the studies out there which speak on that talks about divorce or the effects that divorce has on children are very limited. And she said that, they don't include African-American families, or they hardly include African-American families. So this sister took it upon herself to conduct a study to see how divorce affects African-American children. And again, she reminded me prior to us going live that her mission didn't start out as so. Initially she just wanted to study the effects that divorce had on all children. But she said that during her research, she saw that the studies were limited to, I guess, was it European families, sis? Was it European, Asian, or strictly European families?
It was mostly just European families.
Mostly just European families. So this sister took it upon herself and to study the effects that divorce has on African-American children, I guess, or should I say include African-American children in that study. So we're happy to have you here with us, Sister Gina Mitchell. But before we elaborate on the topic, Sister Raziki, let's go in on the hot topics.
Yes, yes, yes. So I posed an interesting a question in my group, on my 8th house group, about who is really fearful of President Trump. I mean Trump. Ha ha. Okay, no one got that. Being being in office, and it was funny because like I really don't even try to let that whole energy in my cipher. And what I've come to find is that a lot of people who's already had their passports and their exit plans, and they're not so much dependent on the system, aren't as fearful. But some people who may still be on government assistance, or, you know, relying on the political administration, if you will, on certain things, are more so worried. And it just really posed the question, you know, is that healthy? You know, if we've known from like the inception of this corporation called the United States of America that a lot of the political offices and the laws and stuff really weren't made to support specific communities like they are for other communities, you know, what's new? You know what I mean? So I just wanted to get some insight on that. Like, how do we feel this administration, if you will, is going to affect society and or specific communities, and how does that directly affect you? Go.
Well, I mean, I just want to second that by I earlier this week I went on whitehouse.gov and literally read all 15, it's either 15 or 17 new executive orders, as well as the presidential memorandums that they put out. And I'm literally looking at one of the executive orders right now called the Border Security and Immigration Enforcement Improvement. And if you read section 1, I'll just read it briefly right quick. It says the purpose. Border security is critical and important to the national security of the United States. Aliens who are illegally entered the United States without inspection or admission present a significant threat to national security and public safety. Such aliens have not been identified or inspected by federal immigration officers to determine their admissibility to the United States. The recent surge of illegal immigration at the southern border with Mexico has placed a significant strain on federal resources and overwhelmed agencies charged with border security and immigration enforcement, as well as the local communities into which many of the aliens are placed. So it goes on to talk about the transition as far as them beefing up security to pretty much tackle human trafficking, smuggling operations, southern border control, illegal immigrants from Islamic nations. And I mean, it just goes on and on. It has sections 1 through I want to say section 1 through 4 of this executive order. And it really get into how now it's just a 3-month, it was supposed to be a 3-month ban, but what it looks like what they're going to do is while they are fighting to uplift the 3-month ban, they're going to put something in place to get this federally, you know what I mean, put on the books permanently. So with that being said, I think most people, like she said, may or may not be afraid if they have an exit planned. However, this can affect the economy of the United States, I think, severely. And this can affect those who, like she said, solely depend on the system because, unfortunately, you will not be able to enter. And the funny thing that I learned about a couple of days ago, because I was working in Kuwait about 6 months ago, Kuwait is now talking about banning us from Kuwait, from working in Kuwait, and also Iraq is also talking about banning us. Yeah. So this can be like a worldwide thing going on where, a lot of other Islamic countries like Iraq, Kuwait, Dubai, Saudi, places that we have trades. And that's another thing. He also, I'm looking at it right now, he also pulled out on the TPP.
And what's that? People may not know what that is.
Let me go to this right quick. So, and so that's for the trading, but let me give you the correct word for it. I'm looking at the executive orders right now. Give me a minute here so I can pull it up. Where did it go? Wait a
And
minute.
while you're looking for that, like there there was a status going around, I guess because of, well, it was saying for everyone who did something small or big, your efforts have been successful because of you, and went through this list. And Kia, because you have more knowledge in this whole federal thing, like maybe you can also touch on it. But number one, they were talking about federal hiring freeze is reversed for VA, Veteran Affairs. And then a court order partial stay of the immigration ban for those with valid visas, because I was hearing how some people were stuck in the airports. They couldn't even get back in the country. You know what I mean? Even though they've been here. And so that was number three. Green card holders can get back in the country. And then there was also Uber, which is heavily, populated, if you will, by, drivers of, foreign countries, where Uber pledges $3 million in immigration lawyers for its drivers after, delete Uber trends on Twitter because they hire a lot of foreign immigrants. They talked about Obamacare. The ACLU raised $24 million over the weekend. You have more people of different career, religious, economic, and racial backgrounds are considering running for political office more than ever before. And most importantly, they said, since we live in a participatory democracy, the people are more engaged. And so I think this goes back to what we talked about in last week's show, how we were kind of happy for certain reasons that this guy is in office, because it's really forcing people to wake the heck up and really know what it means to, when we say the power is in the people. Like we've been chanting that for the past, I don't know how many years, but I don't think we really took it seriously as we're taking it now, since, evidently really a lot of people don't like this guy. So that's just my spill.
And since I also want to mention that there was something on divorce. I think he signed. Could you read that executive order or pull that up? Not divorce. I'm sorry, abortion. There was some executive.
Yep. There's where he is taking away the federal funding.
What happened, sis?
Yeah. There isn't. I'm sorry. I was on the memorandum for the TPP. But I can find that one too. But let me read the TPP. But the TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership Negotiation Agreement that Obama signed. I want to say 2015. He put the TPP law in. I was actually specifically paying attention to that because I do a lot of international business. So that would kind of help with kind of small trading with small business and big corporations as well. But anyway. Our new president put in a policy, or a memorandum rather, to completely pull out of Pacific Partnership. So no trading.
No, wait a minute, sis. Explain to me what the TPP is. So what does it do? What would be the benefits of that? Like, so for someone like yourself, how would the TPP benefit you? Like,
it's small. Well, it really, eventually it would benefit me. It's more or less for large corporations that do trades on a large scale, exporting and importing on a large scale with these specific countries, right? Mm-hmm. So by them pulling out, you can no longer do trade on a corporate level with these nations. So the policy says the trade with other nations and always will be. I'm reading something else. I'm sorry. But anyway, let me go back. But anyway, by them pulling out, what they're doing is stopping all trades with these group of nations. One, I remember being Peru, and I was kind of shocked when I read about that. But one being Peru, and so say for instance, if you have trading or you doing exporting and importing out of Peru, that would affect you from doing trades with Peru at this time. And he completely pulled out of the with them. And what he initially said is, like he said, make America great again, right? And he want to bring jobs back to the United States. So what he's trying to do, I think what he's trying to do is create an independent America where it's self-sufficient, and they're literally bringing all the manufacturing back to America, by cutting off the trees of nations. But what I fear is that he kind of came in there and took himself out a bit too fast, right? Without really looking at the whole scheme of things and then saying, okay, this may be great for the nation. So that's my spill on the TPP. But yes, there is an executive order also taking federal funding from for abortions. They will no longer pay taxes towards it, and no longer will offer or issue or whatever federal funding for abortions.
So how do you ladies feel about that? Because our sister, her name is Jacqueline. She put a post up that made me think about some things. She put a post up on Facebook that made me think about a few things. She was saying that it seems like now women are equating abortion with women's rights. Like, oh, you're taking away from women's rights. And she's like, so if you want to fight for women's rights, let's dump some money into subsidized housing for mothers. Let's create more jobs for mothers. You get what I'm saying? Like I can't remember her post offhand, but the sister she brought a lot of good points. She was saying, why is it that women's rights, she said, is equal, like it's equated with abortion. So when you talk about abortion, it's like, oh, this is women's rights. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Like, how do you feel about them saying, look, we're no longer going to federally fund abortion? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think the country is going towards socialism. I think that it is a woman's right to choose to do whatever she wants with her body. Say for instance, if you were raped and you got pregnant and you did not want to keep the baby, it is your right to, unfortunately, terminate the pregnancy. Some women would not be able to live with something like that. So for someone else to tell me that I cannot terminate the pregnancy because it's a federal law, I think that is going against a woman's right. I personally believe that it is synonymous with women's right. I mean, that's just me.
I just have, and it all goes back to, again, not depending on the system and creating our own communities. Because if we had our own communities, I wouldn't give a damn what's written on a piece of paper decided in an office in another community that I don't live in. And to me, this is what I guess kind of grinds my gears, because a lot of these executive orders, yes, it's great to know, right? But
sis, I can't hear you, Sister Raziki.
Oh, my bad. I was getting it in too. Okay. So what I was saying was, this goes back to the whole premise of nation building and having communities, because that whole decision he made would not affect me so much if I had my own community to make decisions with on our own. What they write on a piece of paper in an office outside of my community should not have that much power over me. Like, we are natural human beings, and we've been so conditioned to be under this facade of civil rights instead of human rights. I am a flesh and blood human. Your piece of paper really should not have no bearing over me. Now, I can understand certain rules and regulations. I have no right to infringe harm on another person's body. But when it comes to my decisions with my body or decisions within my community, that's up to the community, not some kind of federal system or group of people who don't live in my community. So as far as, him, now, I don't know if I'm getting it twisted, either there's a federal law banning abortions or there's a federal law saying that we're not using federal funds to fund abortions. And if that's the case, I still don't understand what's the big deal. I mean, because this is the purpose of community. If we lived in that kind of dynamic, we wouldn't be fazed by that. And that's all I gotta say.
It is a federal, a federal executive order to not use federal funds for abortion. So that is true.
So
But
I
I
can pay for my own abortion.
yeah, you can pay for your own, but then you also have people that can't. I mean, I'm just looking from as a whole. I understand the community aspect of it, and I agree 100%. But as a whole, women as a whole, if we just take away it just being a certain diet, what is it called? Y'all know. Dang, I had a brain fart. Yeah, but anyway, a super group of people. I can't even think right now. I still think it goes against women's rights for those women that cannot afford it. You know, for that woman who did get raped, who did get molested or whatever, and she does not have the funds to pay for the termination of the baby, or if she gets sick, or if she needs, whatever the case may be. I think it should be in place.
It's definitely a problem that I see with that, because just like you said, if somebody's relative rapes their child and that child ends up getting pregnant, is it the child's responsibility to pay for that abortion? It right. just doesn't make sense. And then it's when they say that the federal government is not going to pay for it, they don't say anything about the state and the local government not paying for it. Like, that sounds like it will be a whole nother separate issue, because not everything that's federally illegal is, also illegal on a state and local level. Let's take, for example, the marijuana laws in Colorado. It's federally illegal to smoke weed, yet in Colorado, you can sell it and grow it. So it's like, it's a difference between when it comes to federal and state and local laws. When it comes to like the community, I try not to limit it too much just on the community itself, but let's say just women in general. They should have the right to decide what happens with their body. Yes, I do agree, but this piece of paper that, doesn't apply to everybody still has to apply to everybody, because we live on the land in which the piece of paper was created. Like, if we didn't want to follow that piece of paper, we can just move to another land, but it's, again, not that easy. So that's it's true. Like, even though this piece of paper is created by a whole nother group of people that we don't agree with, we still have to follow, because we live in that land in which the paper was created. That's true.
Very good point. Very good point. Well, we're going to move on. I appreciate everyone's perspective on the hot topics, but we're going to move forward with today's topic, which is, understanding the effects of divorce on children. Now, our sister right here, Sister Gina Mitchell, she contends that the current definitions of marriage and divorce limits the understanding of the effects of divorce on children. So she's going to be going in on redefining marriage and divorce. So we're going to let her present her material, and then after she presents her material, then the sisters will confab about it or ask questions. And we'll also be taking questions from brothers and sisters in the chat room. Are you ready to rock and roll, Sister Gina?
Yes, I am. Okay, so let me start again. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours. Go ahead, my sister.
All right, so let me start again by introducing myself. My name is Gina. I'm a student of CUNY Baccalaureate for Unique and Interdisciplinary Studies. It's a school in New York that's a little bit different than the common, I guess, state schools, in that I'm able to create my own degree. And if you've never heard of social child psychology, it's because of that school that allowed me to do that. So basically what ended up happening is that I had to do a research project for school, and we got to pick our topics, and I decided to pick children of divorce, thinking that because I'm a product of I am a child of divorce, and my two children are also children of divorce, that it will be a very interesting topic to see the effects of this divorce on children. So with the school thing, we have to use sources that are very credible, that have been peer reviewed and everything. Like, these are social policies that this piece of paper that was created in the land, that we were talking about, just like this, the TPP and the abortion thing. This piece of paper dictates what happens to us in our community, to our children. So I found a bunch of those policies, and a lot of those policies ended up being very limited in their demographics. So it ended up excluding a huge group of people and was really not a representative sample of the United States as a whole. So basically, my topic went from just about children, the effects of children on divorce, to the limitations and the redefinition of marriage and divorce. So yeah, I came to Dr. Mayat for the interview on my project, and we had a great interview, a great little talk, and this is basically the product of this research that I did. So I hope you guys enjoy, hope you learned something. Again, just coming in with just information that I found that I was not intended to find. So if hopefully it doesn't come off too offensive, I'm not trying to offend nobody. So sorry, it's just the information I found. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen. One moment. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, yes, we can see it, sis.
Okay. So again, the topic is redefining marriage and divorce and how this affects our children. So what I'm trying to discuss is the current definitions of marriage and divorce, as well as the new definitions, risk factors, limitations, and even possible solutions that we can come up with. But I do want to know is like, what is your definition of divorce? Anybody could jump in. Like, what is your definition of divorce?
Well, like you said, being a child of divorce, divorce is just like, to me, well, because I understand marriage is a contract now, it's like just a separation in the contract where two people are no longer legally binded together. And of course, they're no longer in the same household. That's just my understanding.
Okay, that sounds about right. That's good. What about definition of divorce?
I would say that.
I mean, sorry, like marriage. I got it mixed up. I'm sorry. What was your definition of marriage? I wanted to know.
He was saying marriage that a legal contract
is the legal contract, right? And divorce would be the separation of that legal contract, right?
Correct.
Yes. That's right.
Okay, so that is basically the common definition of marriage here. What I find, like you said, the legal or formally recognized union of two people as partners in a relationship. Very cut, dry definition, right? And what is divorce normally? Normally, like you said, again, is the dissolution of a marriage by a court or some other competent body. In the United States, it would be the court. But again, this is a very limited definition. Like, they just don't represent us. We're not everybody in the United States is married, you know? And as we know with the current federal laws, that it doesn't have to be male, female either. So it's like, we're not fully able to understand what effects divorce has on children when we exclude these groups out. So my thing is, like this meme says, one just does not simply define marriage. It's just a huge structure. So like, I found this article in a psychology magazine called Psychology of Tomorrow, and he discusses non-traditional families in the United States. And his non-traditional families are the single by choice parenting, the blended families, again, the same-sex families, multi-generational and chosen families. These are like if your grandparents were to raise you, or if your uncle and aunt were to raise you, or even if you were a child in the welfare system and you're adopted, or you know, you got foster parents. It's things like that. When I'm talking about marriage, it should be defined as two people who are together for a significant amount of time in which their children, friends, and family consider or think of them as married. So for example, you got, let's say me, for example, I am cohabitating. I'm not married. I don't necessarily have a very strong belief or following with marriage or even divorce for that matter. But if me and my significant other were to have a child together, this is our family. We are now like our child. Should he go outside to go play with his friends or anything like that, he's going to say, my parents are married. He's not going to say that they're cohabitating together. Like, that's just not how children think. It's not realistic. So divorce, I think, should also include breakups and separation. Like with breakups are like when two people not legally married, boyfriend, girlfriend, been dating for 50 years, never married, those kind of people. Even teenagers who end up going through teen pregnancies. They don't always end up together forever. So, you know, breakups are common and should be included in divorce. The same thing with separation. Separation is a legal term that they use for when somebody who doesn't want to necessarily get divorced, but they still want to go ahead and like maybe do their taxes together, but they want to live separately and be able to date separately and stuff like that. Like there's a situation in, like, imagine how the kids are feeling in that situation. It's still similar to divorce. The parent is no longer living with that family. So I know some of you guys are asking, what's my point? And my point is that the same feelings, thoughts, and emotions and behaviors that are present in a child of divorce would also be present in a child whose parents have either broken up or separated. It's like it's the same side of the same coin. It's not any different. I thought this was cute because a lot of the effects that they have for children of divorce are just so groundbreaking, negative, oh my gosh, earth shattering, the world is over kind of thing. So basically, this is what I got from a PowerPoint slide from my professor for exceptional childhoods. She's saying that for children specifically, and this is not teenagers, this is about between the ages of, let's say, 2 to 11, that once they have once they've been through divorce, they experience these kind of problems like academic issues, they're failing grades, or they're just not paying attention anymore. They say that 85% of children who go through divorce exhibit some type of externalizing behavior, like just bullying, let's say, or they have some type of internalizing disorder like depression. And they also say that they're less socially responsible and less competent in what they're doing. Also, that they also have like lower self-esteem. My thing is, did anybody get divorced between the age of 2 to 11?
What you mean, as a child?
Yes, as a child, did anybody experience some type of separation? Under the new definition of divorce, has anybody experienced some type of parental separation as a child between the age of 2 to 11 that had them experiencing these risk factors?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, me too. I was 8 when my parents separated or divorced.
All right,
yeah.
So we can agree with some of these risk factors, right? So a lot of research says that these risk factors carry over. So let's look into what happens when you're an adolescent. They say when you're an adolescent who has gone through a divorce at some time in their life, and they actually end up extending it from like 2 to like 18 at this point. Well, for the sake of psychology, they say that 25 is actually still an adolescent because you're not at the age of where your mind is mentally developed completely. So consequences don't necessarily apply. So I kind of put 25 at an adolescent age.
Sister Regina, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, you're still on the first slide. We're not
really?
seeing your slide move along. Yeah. So we don't
see that.
Yeah. So we didn't see any of your slides. We just saw like
that sucks. Okay.
Yeah,
so let me just get to the current slide. It's okay. It's all right.
All right.
Can you see?
You kind of flip through the previous slides so that the viewers could see that, because we didn't see any of the slides. We just saw one slide, title slide.
Okay, so
So the first slide was that I see now. Dang, you on 26? Okay. Oh Lord, dang, we missed a lot because I'm hearing.
Not really. A lot of it was just it's just my little show-offy thing. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine, sis. But can you go back up, because the people who are watching, they want to see your slides.
Yeah.
And so you can like scroll to the top, click on, and then go to the bottom right. Yeah, go to the bottom right corner and click the slideshow icon. Do you see the little icon on the bottom right corner of PowerPoint?
You see it? What about the next slide?
No, or just click on the pictures like you were doing. Click on number 2.
Yeah, I was thinking that's what probably. I got to figure it out. I'll work it out.
Okay, so what will be discussed? Okay, go to number 3.
Let's see, current
so
there we go. Current definitions.
And then, okay, so that's when you went over risk factors. Okay.
So I'm just gonna breeze through this, right? Because it was just a little show-offy, a little just playing around with it, basically. So again, just to reiterate, legal, the definitions of marriage is just based on legal definitions. The same thing with divorce. Divorce is pretty much a legal thing, but we know that when it comes to marriage, it's not just exclusive to just legal issues, because you got religion that plays a key factor into the whole thing, or culture that plays a factor. And when it comes to divorce, not every religion accepts divorce. So it's not like, it's only just legal.
Now let me ask you, that's a very good point that you brought up. So how do you feel, because like you said, there's religions that won't accept divorce, and there are actually people who believe that no matter if their marriage is bad, that staying together is good for the children. And my question is it worse to have children see their parents separate, or stay together and then get a dysfunctional picture of what a relationship is supposed to be, because they're staying together for the sake of, let's just not separate, even though I'm miserable?
Well, that's the funny thing. That is part of the issue, is that they did a study to figure out if children in intact families versus children in divorced families fare better off. And yes, children do fare slightly better in intact families, but not by much, because the parents' animosity still contributes to the relationship. And this is learned behavior that children just end up like bring it into their own relationships when they get older, or just how they treat other people. Like this is, in my opinion, I think it's worse for parents to remain together for the sake of their children, and still feel animosity. It doesn't work out all the time. It just may be better for the child and everyone involved just to separate. Not everybody has to be together. I mean, when you brought about the topic of how hard the divorce and everything, the reason why the divorce rate was so high when it first came out in the United States was because people weren't able to divorce. Like, they were getting abused, they were getting so maltreated that the marriage locked them into this bad relationship. So divorce gave them a way to be normal, to be not even normal, but to be independent, to actually be able to find themselves and their identity and not be locked into something that's not healthy. It's like it just ended up being said. It's just crazy. And when I think about it, it's like, yes, the divorce rate is about 50% or something like that, but it's not like it's people just leaving and coming and going whenever they feel like. A lot of back in the days, it was just because they had bad relationships. They just could not get along. It just didn't work. So now the divorce rate is decreasing, but now we also see that there's other factors. Now that we know that people aren't always getting abused, now it's crazy. It's crazy the way that things are.
I think too, for divorce, like you're right, it's not just abuse, but a lot of people don't even know the right foundation under which to get married. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let you finish. My bad, I get anxious. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. Like that's all right. So let me just go to the definition that I had for marriage, that what it should be is as defined, it should be defined as two people who are together for a significant amount of time in which the children, friends, and family, again, consider them as married. Because as I said before, children go outside the household, and even if their parents aren't married, they're going to go ahead and say, my parents are married, or think that that's what marriage is. It's just the parents living together. Like these children are not a part of the legal court system that goes on. When parents are fighting together in court, the children aren't a part of that. They don't know any different. Like, they're just kids. But that's also what I want to get into about later also, especially with the situation you were talking about earlier, Sister Riziki, when you were talking about how your mom came about the situation of telling you about the divorce. We'll get into that too. I got something for that. But yeah, I just went ahead and put in the different types of divorce that we have in our country right now, which is just the the separation and the breakups, as well as the regular divorce. So it's like we have 3 different types of divorce, and we probably even have even more if I can think of other type of relationships that end up, you know, just end in some way. But basically, so what's my point? My point is that the same feelings and thoughts and behaviors and emotions, everything that a child goes through in a legal divorce, they will still go through in, we'll call it a undocumented divorce. Like, we won't even call it like an illegal divorce. We'll call it undocumented divorce. So we have a lot of issues or a lot of beliefs in which the child of divorce is seen as the ultimate negative. Like, this child, if their parents get divorced, it's over for them. The world is over. They have no chance of succeeding in life whatsoever. Is like the main idea, a lot of beliefs on divorce. So again, certain risk factors that children go through, and this is between the age of 2 to 11 when it comes to children, is the academic problems, the bullying, maybe the depression, not even being responsible for your own actions, and just having a low self-esteem about yourself. Because, you know, children a lot of times internalize the feeling that the divorce is all their parents. The divorce of their parents is their fault. They're the reason why their parents are getting divorced. So they say that we also carry that over into adolescence. And adolescence is about, for me, how I'm defining it is from 12 to 25, just because your brain doesn't necessarily mature until the age of 25. So they say that when you're a teenager, you have a 71% chance of dropping out of school. You're going to be unemployed because your parents divorced. You're going to become sexually active at an early age. You're going to also have a child out of wedlock. You're not even going to be married, and you're just going to have children all over the place. You're just going to be involved in, like, drug addicts, you know, you're going to be involved with going to jail and drinking, being an alcoholic, being a druggie, all these type of things. And they say, this is a stat that I had pulled from a site on helping people through divorce. And this one was particularly with fathers, because they say when it's a divorce, basically the child always goes with the mother. So the child is now without a father. And they're saying that delinquent activities and substance abuse happens with 13% of the children without their fathers, 33% with those who are just divorced. Now, when they say 13% without their fathers, that's like an absent father, maybe someone who doesn't want to acknowledge the child or doesn't know the child is even born or even in jail kind of thing. So they're saying those people who parents maybe not been married, but, you know, just didn't have a father, 13% of them are just going to be delinquent. 33 whose parents have been divorced are going to be delinquent, and 44 who just cohabitated and ended up breaking up are just going to be delinquent. Now, my question is, did anybody go through any of this when they were adolescents? Like, did you drop out of school? Did you just not have a job because of the divorce?
Wow. Yeah, I'll attest. I fought a lot. I had some academic problems. I did have low self-esteem. Dropping out of school, mama won't having that, so that wasn't a problem. I did become sexually active at a younger age, and if it wasn't for an abortion, I would have had a child out of wedlock. But I was like 20 or something, so I don't know. Be involved in delinquent activities and substance abuse. Yes, I was. Yeah. I don't know.
Let me go in real fast. I never had academic problems, but yes, I did have some behavioral issues. I did have some anger issues. Lower self-esteem, no, not really. Dropped out of school, never. Unemployed, no. Was I sexually active at an early age? What would you define early age as?
Early
11
age for them
13?
is probably what they would classify as early age in just this context, not even talking about like sex ed kind of thing, but like they're saying early would be like 12 through 16.
Oh.
Yep, then I was active, sexually active at an early age.
Yeah.
Have children out of wedlock, yes. It said be involved in delinquent activities and substance abuse. Yes, I was.
And and when they say associated with antisocial peers, it's just basically people who are also involved in the delinquent activities as well. So it's like you're just surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
With this, the thing I don't necessarily agree with, because I've done some of these things as well, being a child of divorce, except I didn't drop out of school. I made the graduation. The unemployment was a whole nother story. Child out of wedlock, won by a couple of months, but besides the point. What I learned is, would you have still been sexually active at an early age if you had a early knowledge of sex? Like if you were just taught what's safe, what not to do, and all that other stuff about sex education at an early age, you think you still would have been sexually active with the divorce?
I think I would have. I think I wouldn't have been sexually active had I had a conversation, like with my mother, about, sex. And then also my father there to tell me, to say, baby girl, look, you don't have to give yourself away. You don't have to wait. I actually had friends, a good friend of mine. She's now in her late 30s. She remained a virgin until she was married. And she had three of them, three sisters. And all of them actually remained virgins until they was married. And when I asked them why, they said that their father was a reason why. They said their father would tell them about men and how men would lie to get it, and kind of like scared them away from giving themselves to men, until they were married, of course. So having that dad there to validate your self-worth and to school you about men definitely helps. So I think that had I had my father there, present to tell me about certain things, to validate my self-worth, to just, reaffirm that I'm worth the wait, I think that I would have waited. I think that having a father will prevent a lot of women from being promiscuous. I think that it is definitely needed. And also knowledge of sex, having those conversations with your children about sex also helps.
So yeah, we see that so based on what you just told me, it seems like a lot of these risk factors, we'll just say this one in particular, is maybe not necessarily a direct result of divorce. Like it could just be the lack of knowledge. Like unemployment could just be the lack of opportunities, or even just being of the wrong color or wrong race would get you unemployed.
Because even like with parents, like I've known people who have both parents in the house, but the household was just dysfunctional. Right. You know what I'm saying? So even with both parents in the house, because we're not getting what's needed in the household, you then look for that out in the street somewhere with other people. So right. I get what you're saying, because I know, some single parent homes where the child, they really didn't exude all of these behaviors, because even though the parents were separated, they were still both very much active mentally and emotionally, if not physically. So I do understand the dynamic, but as Dr. Mayat said, I know for me, I do feel as if, my father was there presently in the house, because over the phone, if all you tell me, keep your mind on those books and off those boys, and that's it. I mean, that really don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, well, I can keep my mind on books and boys at the same time. So daddy, what you just telling me is to learn how to multitask. You know what I'm saying? It's not really, and not to put fault on him, but no, I definitely get what you're saying. So it can go both ways. It's more about the emotional support and the knowledge that you're given.
Right.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, the knowledge and then the reinforcement of that knowledge.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
The knowledge, but then having both of your parents reinforce the knowledge that they've imparted to you. But go ahead, Sister Gina.
Okay, so again, just like with children, it carries over into your adulthood. This divorce is supposed to affect you for the rest of your life, according to research. And research says that as adults, we're going to continue to have these adjustment problems. We're going to be less satisfied with our lives. We're going to have we're not going to make as much money as we did before the issues with divorce. We're more likely to be on welfare, and we're more likely to have marital instability. Not only that, we're going to have we're going to show more belligerence and more contempt and criticism to various issues that may not even pertain to relationships, but will just be, what would you call it? Sort of a mad black woman kind of syndrome is what I would say. And then we'll also have like less effective problem solving when it comes to like relationship issues. Like our parents divorced and they were just angry all the time. So now I just don't know how to talk to people where I'm not yelling all the time and being angry with them. And according to research, they're saying that we carry all of this throughout our lifehood, our adulthood. So my question is, do we experience this?
I kind of agree with Sister Gina with some of that research, because I believe that your parents are like your first model of a relationship. You get what I'm saying? Like watching your mom and dad interact, that is your first model of a relationship. And so if you see your parents arguing and fighting all the time, I can kind of see someone growing up and becoming an adult who goes back and forth with their mate because they were brought up in a household where they saw mom and dad going back and forth. You know, so you emulate as a child, you know, you emulate the models that you see. And we have to remember that our parents are our first models for relationships. And so, you know, again, I know that earlier today, Sister Raziki shared some stuff. She was saying that, you know, watching her mom, you know, struggle as a single mother. She said her mom taught her how to survive without a man instead of survive with a man. And I actually concur with Sister Raziki, because I am a product of a single parent home, and I watched my mother make it without a man, you know, and I'm gonna be honest, that was my mentality. Like, I could do with you or without you, because I saw that it was possible. My mother did it, my auntie did it, my grandma did it, you know, my cousins are doing it, you know, so it was kind of like, I don't need you, and you know, but value. I didn't value the relationships, you know, that I had, you know, so you know, I do concur with some of this research.
Right, and me, my situation was a little different. My parents got divorced when I was about the 4th grade, and I had my sister with me and everything. But we ended up living with my aunts and uncles and cousins, so it wasn't just my mom raising us. And then eventually my father moved back in, but they didn't marry. So my father was still an active parent in the situation, in a sense, in that he was physically there, but it was probably, and he was emotionally there to some extent, but they didn't have such strong negative emotions in front of us. So we didn't see much of that, even though we knew it was there. So it's interesting, a lot of these dynamics. I also have to agree that a lot of these risk factors did apply to me as well as an adult, until I figured it out, I guess now. Also what they say with the study, it also goes into the divorce on parents, on the situation of the parents, because that was also another thing that I found, was that the focus of a lot of these studies were more focused on the parents, or specifically the mother, and not the child, or not even really including the father in any of this discussion. With most research articles, the father is the absent parent. There's no absent parent mom. There's just the absent parent father. And me, myself, again, going to my situation, I would be considered an absent parent mother because my 2 children live with their father. But I am still trying as much as I can. Me and the father still working it out, but we're trying to become active parents, or for me to have a more active role in both of their lives. So what they're saying is that again, the parental loss, you're losing that parent. In this case, you're losing the father. You're having an economic loss because instead of 2 incomes coming into the household, now you have 1. And that 1 income could have been, well, in society, we know women make certain cents on the dollar compared to men, right? So the child is now surviving on a lower income than if he had both parents or was with the father. Then you have more life stress. You got to figure out where to live after that. You got to change schools. You got to get new jobs. The kids also go through all this stuff too. You have some parents, some moms, some dads, they just after this divorce, it messed them up so bad that all they talk about is this B over here. I can't stand this B. I can't stand this N. He is just this, he's that. And, you know, it's just, they're not able to move on with their lives. And that ends up just stumping or stunting the child's growth. Also, it's like that stump ends up influencing the child. The parent doesn't know any better. The parent is not even focused on the child when it comes to divorce. The parent is only focused on them and that person they just divorced. The child has no bearing unless he needs to be fed, clothed, and go to school and stuff like that. Like, it's just amazing how little significance, even in research that we see, that children have when it comes to divorce. And also, a lot of times, even though children do not are excluded in a lot of the research, they are still forced into the situation in that their parents end up throwing them into the middle of the situation. Like, they end up bringing them into it anyway. But let me just go on a little bit on the limitations real quick. So I do see limitations. I definitely saw some limitations. And those limitations was the socioeconomic status. They mostly referred around middle income individuals. When it comes to gender, they focused on the mother, not the father, but the mother. When it comes to this research, again, it was on the mother or the mother and child relationship, not the child, not the father and child relationship, not the mother and father and the child relationship, mostly just the mother and how she reacts to divorce in general. Then the culture, we're talking about white America, the European Americans. We're talking about in research, there's they don't look at the Muslims in the community. They don't look at so much the any other religion besides Catholicism and Judaism and Christianity are the three main religions is what they look at. So my thing is to base research on a social concept such as culture and gender and socioeconomic status, these things is just not valid. It's not only not valid, it's just faulty to try and have this fully represent the United States population and then make us try and abide by these laws that just for some reason it doesn't include us, so it doesn't understand us in a sense. So this is just two samples of the research that I had to use for my project that talks about their demographics. This is the first 25-year longitudinal study on divorce, and this one was focused on mothers and their children. So this one, as I underlined, middle-class people. The children who were doing well, the parents didn't have any type of psychiatric problems like depression or anything. These families attended church and synagogues, and most of the parents were college educated. 60 families, most of them white. This other study by two doctors in a Journal of Divorce and Remarriage. Now, this journal is a publication that that a lot of psychologists use. A lot of people who form public policies use these to research. And again, parents of children in this divorce were primarily white, 88% of them, and that their annual income was 35%. And I didn't underline this part, but it even says that the attendees had post-baccalaureate degrees. Like, these are people that are representing a whole country, but they don't represent a whole country. But again, I did mention in my research that it may be intentional or unintentional that they do this, because when they look for studies or when they're looking for participants for their studies, they're only surrounded by white, middle-class, college-educated women. So, I mean, that's just their pool that they can draw from. And also, I've also mentioned this with Dr. Maya in our interview, that is a good chance that the Black community just don't trust psychologists or white psychologists or European psychologists for that matter, because of all the things we've experienced in the past from like the
Tuskegee. So long for the wrong reasons. I don't blame us, but okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's the problem, which is part reason why I want to try and jump into this field, because I feel that if I am a reflection of my community, I can better help my community since my community doesn't trust the others. So hopefully this will help. So according to kids, now these are studies that actually focused on the kids. They say that kids are being caught in the middle because one parent is asking about another parent. And rather than going directly to the former spouse they were talking about, they just end up involving the kids in the business. Now, mind you, these are the same people that say, oh, the kids shouldn't be knowing about divorce. Kids don't need to know about that. That's not the kids' business. That's just their own thing. But you involve them anyway. You still involve the children. So it's just amazing. Even in the same study, they say that children are used as leverage in custody disputes. It's not just custody when it comes to like things of child support, just the divorce case. These are things that whatever the child says to one parent ends up going into a whole legal battle, which again places all that blame and all the guilt on the child. Like that's just very irresponsible parenting on either the mother or the father. And in this case of this study, it happened to have been the mother. So also, children feel unheard. Like parents could make divorce easier for children just by listening to the ideas, concerns, and wishes rather than dismissing them like they're just nothing. It's like, you got to talk to the children about the divorce and the issues that they're going through because they are a part of the family. Like the thing is, when I talk about redefining marriage and divorce, I'm talking about also including children in that marriage and divorce because, I'm sorry?
Right.
Because it's like when you're married, yeah, you had the spouse, but when you become parents, that child is now a part of that marriage. They have a certain entitlement to participate in the family structure and dynamics. It's just that's how they grow up. Like when you're having family dinners, you want them to participate. When you're having family discussions, you want them to participate. So when it comes to divorce, why wouldn't you want them to participate so they can understand? So they did the study, they asked a bunch of children and the children were like, divorce does concern them and it has a huge impact on their lives and they want their voices heard regarding decisions like which parent to live with, for example, like, things of that nature. So in short, basically, I have said this before with Dr. Mayat, that children are a direct reflection of their parents' behavior. Like she said before, parents are the first role models into what a relationship is supposed to be or how you're supposed to treat somebody in a relationship. And if we're just so negative and so angry and frustrated and we even ignore the child, they're taking that with them to when they grow up. They're taking that into their next relationship. Like they're going to end up reflecting your divorce in every other relationship they have. So why would you subject them to something like that? So basically, they came up with some 10 commandments on what should happen with divorcing parents. Now, I don't agree with all of these commandments, but they do have a point. That you gotta inform the child of the divorce and explain why it's happening, and that when you do so, both parents has to be there. Not one parent explaining their one side of the story, because we know that there's 3 sides to every story: his, hers, and the truth. So it's like, you can't just only have one parent telling the child what's going on with the divorce. You gotta make sure that you tell the child, especially the younger ones, that it's not their fault for the divorce. Like, don't worry, don't focus so much on the divorce and the issues and so much. Just know that me and your father, or me and your mother are taking care of the issue. It is, it sucks, but we'll move on. I mean, abusive relationships, if you're in an abusive relationship, you really got to think about your child in that one. I'm not one to tell somebody that they need to do something with their lives. If you have a child, it's actually for the best interest of your child, not you. I'm sorry. They can't take care of themselves. You can, they can't. So there's no excuse on that one. if you're about to remarry, you should involve the child in that conversation as well, because this is a new person coming into you and your child's marriage, your household. This is your family that you and your child had from the beginning, and there's this new guy coming in or this new female coming in. They have to be informed of stuff like this. At the same time, you just can't make the children the adults. Like, don't sit there and tell them, yeah, well, your father did this and he's just ridiculous. You know how he is and how he gets. Like, you can't do stuff like that. The child is not your friend. The child is still a child. Also with that, discussing money, talking about your father still owes me $200 in child support. No, that's wrong. You don't do that with children. They are not your friends. Children need rules and guidelines. It's just like when you have a newborn, you got to make sure that they got to stick to a schedule so that they can sleep all night, and that, you know, they're not waking up at every hour. So it's just the rules. The rules have a certain stability, a certain structure that gives them something stable to follow, something consistent that doesn't change. You should never force children to take sides, even if, like, this is a tough one, because a lot of parents, it's an automatic reaction for a lot of parents to just, so who do you want to stay with, your father or your mother? If the child isn't sure, they end up pushing the child even further. Like, oh, you don't want to stay with your father does this, or you don't want to stay with your mother, she doesn't know how. These kind of things, these are all negative things that you should not be doing with your child. When it comes to divorce and stuff like that, it's more of a relationship that you gotta nurture. I mean, yeah, it's over, but you have a child, and that child still needs nurturing. You still gotta be, both parents still have to be involved in the child, even if they're not living together. So again, belittling the spouse, I went over that, and putting your child in the middle is the same situation. And my thing is, how do we fix this? Because we see that in our community, there's not a lot of marriage so much in our community. We have more cohabitation and breakups than we do divorces, which is another reason why the definition of marriage and divorce has to be redefined. So what are possible solutions to fix this? In my presentation, I had proposed that children need some type of outside help. Parents and children need an outside help, because we know that the parents don't know any better. So maybe they'll learn from somebody who does know better. And in that sense, it would be like a child-centered, family-based home visitation program, where someone who has been through divorce can go to the household and to work with the child so that the child is not experiencing all those negative effects and not become this child of divorce. Because at the end of the day, there's research that says the effects of divorce is actually not as bad and not as long-term as one may think. It says, while some children may be more or less affected, the vast majority of consequences associated with divorce for children are short-lived and tend to be small in magnitude. For example, are you guys unemployed right
No,
now?
I have
Work for ourselves.
Do you have low self-esteem?
No.
Nope.
I mean, it sounds like this divorce didn't really last it lasted some time, especially since this is your life, but at the same time, you got over it. And you're able to teach your children even better ways of dealing with relationships. So at the end of the day, it's just the way is that at the end of the day, it's the parents' responses throughout the divorce is what affects the children, and whether they're negative or positive factors. And that's just basically the all there is to it. That's what I found. That's what I researched. And thank you very much.
Yes, good job, sis. Wow, that was awesome. I have to
powerful. That was powerful.
Yeah, I got to commend you on that. You hit a lot of valid points, and I have to agree with you 1,000%. When you were And I'm gonna just say what touched it for me, and not to, you know, put all my family business out there, because it's not just mine, but my mother and my father. But I can remember, for instance, with the low self-esteem, like even when my parents separate and I would do something, and or a child would do something, and then you hear, you remind me just like your father, or you remind me of your mother. You know what I'm saying? That brings
Right.
connotation to the child. And so now the child is like, well, you know, now you have a negative association with said parent that you remind that other parent of. And you're absolutely right, because, you know, when we talked about marriage and divorce, again, a lot of us are marrying on weak ass foundations. And my thing is, if you are marrying or getting together on a strong foundation, the rate for divorce may not be as high. And another thing you brought up, which I thought was so important, is the whole counseling psychology thing. Now, we already as a community have a nasty or a negative association with, you know, admitting there's mental imbalance or mental problems in the community. And to go sit on somebody's couch and talk to somebody is looked at as weak, when in all actuality, if any culture needs psychologists, it would be us. With the amount of mental, like, abuse that we have been through out of all cultures on the planet, I would say we need psychology or psychologists the most. And I commend you on your work. And the last thing I want to bring up is like the story I shared when you were talking about the parents' role and responsibility to kind of prepare the child for divorce, or kind of, like, just be honest and open about it. And I was telling y'all the story, like, you know, my mother, she did the best she knew how with what she knew. And again, I remember those times when we would be in the car and she'd just be like, let me just ask you a question. You know, what if me and your father separated? Who would you want to live with? And I was just like, you know, you because I know one of the main reasons why she did divorce my dad was because the lack of interaction he had with us. So it wasn't so much her, it was, I see how you're not interacting with these children, so why am I with you in the first place? And yeah, I was, like I said, in second grade, I was pulled out of class. Next thing I know, I'm driving up to the house, and there's U-Haul trucks and movers moving furniture and stuff out the house. And my mom, she did it like a game. She was like, okay, we're going to hurry up and put all our clothes in the trash bag as fast as you can. So as a child, I'm thinking that this is a game. So I'm running around the house, like putting stuff in the trash bag, and I'm having fun. So in a weird kind of way, that process or beginning stage of divorce was like on a fun side, I guess. But after, you know, things settled and it's me, my mom, and my brother, and my dad isn't there, and then I'm seeing her frustrated, having to deal with all this stuff by herself, and then that anger and frustration kind of is taken out on the kids. And again, as a young mom, not really having a handbook to parenting, and knowing that our family as a whole lacks male presence, you know, she did the best that she could. So, I mean, it's, girl, I need to fill up my teacup, honey. That was deep. And I'm through.
Look, I was going to say that, man, I appreciate you, Sister Riziki, for sharing your story. And we both have similar stories in that we are both products of divorce. My story is that, and I'm with Riziki, instead of not getting too personal, because it's not just my business. This is my mother's and father's business as well. But I came, my mom and dad were married for 11 years. My brother, he was conceived in 1970, and that's when they had a shotgun marriage in 1970. And so then after that, I was born in 81. And I was actually conceived and born at the tail end of the marriage. So like right after I was born, like within a year, my mom had moved out with one of her girlfriends, left my father the house. He messed the house up. They went to court. She ended up being granted the house. And then we moved back in the house. And of course, he had to move out of the house. So I came like at the very tail end of the marriage. So I don't remember growing up with my father per se. Like I don't ever remember him being in household at all. But I do remember him coming to pick me up when I was young and being in kindergarten and him dropping me off, at school here and there. And I remember some arguments, like when my mom began to date, maybe my father dropped me off and maybe my mother was coming in with a gentleman or a gentleman was leaving out and he would just zap out. So I remember those moments, but I don't ever remember him being in the house. And I remember being in the 6th grade and I was so jealous of this girl. Her name is Avon. I'm not going to call her last name out because she is on Facebook, but her name was Avon. And I remember being in the 6th grade, so jealous of this girl because her father and mom would come to like different events that were thrown by the school. And I remember saying, wow, like, I wish I had that. I wish that I had, my mom and dad, present together, coming to events and things of that nature at the school. So, I kind of like resented my mom and resented my father for not working it out. And it wasn't until later on when I became a grown woman that my mom told me why she divorced my father. She sat down and told me what transpired in the marriage. There was a lot of abuse and neglect going on in the marriage. And she said, I had to go. I couldn't expose you guys to that. Now my brother, who had by 11 years, he saw, he witnessed some of that abuse. And then I also had heard stories from like aunties and uncles who told me about the abuse and neglect that went down in the marriage. But I never witnessed it. I never saw it. So, once she explained that to me when I got older, then it was kind of like, oh, okay, I totally get why mom and dad are not together. But I do agree with you, Sister Gina, that should have been a conversation, maybe when I was younger, I don't know. I don't know if she didn't think that I was mature enough to handle that conversation or not, but maybe if they would have sat down and talked to me and said, look, this is why this is why we're not together. This is why you may see other children with their mommy and their daddy and not you. Maybe I could have adjusted better to the separation or them being divorced. But I also want to touch on this. I like how you said that we need to redefine marriage. I love when you said that, because when we look at marriage, I feel like as African people, we view marriage through the lenses of a European. So when we're looking at marriage, we think that marriage is between, man and woman. That's it. When really marriage should be, it's a communal thing, because you're joining families together. So it's not just this man and this woman coming together. It's this man, his mom's side of the family, his dad's side of the family, this woman, her mom's side, her dad's side. You're bringing together families. Okay, so I think that we do need to redefine marriage and stop looking at marriage as just being solely the union between man and woman. When you talk about the union between man and woman, now you got me going back to the Bible. Now I'm thinking about Christianity when it talks about a man, leaving his family and cleaving on to his wife. That is not African. In Africa, marriage was between the clans. So your daughter might have married, my son, and you're bringing together clans and families. So marriage is more of a communal thing, not an individualistic thing as Eurocentric society, European society. Hold up, sis, hold up. It's European society, what have you. Also, the criteria for marriage should be redefined. We really think that marrying somebody we think that love, whatever you want to define it, because, again, Dr. Amos Wilson also, he always talks about how we, in a lot of his lectures, he says that, love, how to love, is taught. So however you define love, a lot of people say, well, I'm marrying him or I'm marrying her for love. So we not only need to redefine what marriage is, we need to also redefine when to marry and how to marry. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Sister Raziki. Sister Raziki, want to get in? Go ahead, sis. What's going on, sis?
No, I was just like agreeing with you. Okay, because y'all know I'm about to get on my pseudo real quick. You know. Okay, so when I do compatibility charts, and this is backing up to not only like how our families back in the day would bring together people, because there was a lot of factors involved. Okay, so first I want to talk about the 3 things in relationships that people should consider, which, I know you said a lot of people based off of love, right? But then again, if you can't produce nothing, if you can't pay no bills, or you know what I mean, like take care of business where you could sustain the family, eventually love is going to go out the window, because love shouldn't mean you starving, hungry, broke, and homeless. The second part of a relationship that I consider is karmic, meaning that both of you were supposed to meet because you are supposed to teach each other about yourselves for the purpose of improvement, okay? And then the arranged aspect comes into play, which is what we've been more so familiar with back in the day, because arranging a marriage wasn't just off of love, but it was also how well can you guys produce together? Like, right. You have land, they have a business or whatever. When you come together, it's now a powerhouse. Now we have the ingredients to build an empire. You have people who get together and can't even produce an idea, let alone children. And so that's another factor that we fail to consider when we partner with people. Another thing when I do these compatibility is like, yeah, I'll look at that. Okay, how's the love? How are y'all teaching each other about yourselves? And also, how is the arrangement? What can you guys produce? But I've also found that two people can get together and literally make each other sick. People can come into each other's lives and their career falls off, their attention to, you know, their goals, their dreams, because this other person is sucking the life out of you because they need to be babied and nurtured, and you're trying to grow them into the man or woman that you want them to be, or because you see they have potential. So now you're going into this relationship trying to build this person up to what you think they can be versus what they're showing you in your face. So again, like you said, it is about, you know, we need to redefine the standard or the criteria when we enter into these relationships, because you know, just looking at the family dynamic overall, like I said before, it's on these weak foundations instead of the strong ones. So that's all I have.
And it's not only just the weak foundations, it's also the whole idea of what marriage and divorce is supposed to be and what society believes these ideas should be. Like when it comes to marriage, we all believe, like a lot of people believe that it's forever. It's this forever concept, till death do us part kind of thing. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of times when you're talking about like love and relationships, it doesn't necessarily work out. It's like, I took a class on human sexuality and learned that not only do opposites attract, but like attracts like. So which is it? Either or, you know, you got two situations. And then also love doesn't necessarily have any type of definition or any type of solid meaning, because it's subjective. It could be, anybody can define love completely differently. Like my love can be completely different than your love, but it's not so much of like what it is, it's just what you're doing with it. If you're trying to be in a relationship where you're trying to change the person to make them a better person, then you're not in the relationship with the person for who they are. You're in the relationship with the person for what you think they could be, or the idea of what you want them to be. That's not a relationship.
You're falling in love with them.
That's the potential. That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, you're falling in love with potential. But just to piggyback on that, I put up a post a while ago and I was talking about how we, and I agree wholeheartedly with you, Sister Riziki, when you said that if we redefine marriage and understand like why or when should we marry, then maybe that will limit how often people separate and get divorced. And so I remember a while ago on Facebook, on my like page, Dr. Oya Mayat, I put up a post just talking about how we need to master the art of mating again. A lot of people don't even know how to select a mate. And I put up, you know, a few things, and I'm going to read them right here. I said that the mating criteria should include family history, values, and traditions. So when you get with this man or this woman, you need to understand the family history. What runs in this family? I mean, and we're going to do a powerful show next week. I'm looking forward to it. You have some families where abuse runs in the family, where child molestation runs in the family. You get what I'm saying? Alcoholism, drug abuse runs in the family. So when you get with somebody, and I'm not saying that family history is all negative, but what I am saying is that when you get with someone, you should be transparent about your family, about your upbringing. And I remember when I was out there dating, you know, one of my aunties was telling me, you never tell a man everything, you know, about, you know, you never tell him about your past. You never tell him. And I'm like, because these men will use your past against you. But now at 35, I'll be 36 next week. I see that it's important that you share your past and your history with people that you're dating so that they can understand your psychology, you know, when you do things and your behaviors. You get what I'm saying? So definitely understanding someone's family history, someone's family values, someone's family traditions, understanding your view on male-female relationships and household roles. How do you think a woman should run her household? How do you think a man should conduct himself in the home? That's very important. Views on child rearing. You know, I'm talking about how do you want to discipline your children? What sort of things do you want to expose your children to? So your views on child rearing should be a discussion. Health, diet, those are important. Your social political views are important. And as Sister Riziki said, your economic potential. What can we bring and build together? Communication is very important. And also conflict resolution. How do you deal with conflicts? Do you fight it out? Do you talk it out? Are you the type of person that walk away and isolate yourself? That needs to be a discussion. Sister Riziki, you get me pumped up. But these sort of things need to be a discussion prior to, you know, forming a relationship with someone, let alone marrying someone. So that's all I have, Sister Gina Mitchell. You did a wonderful. Go ahead, Sister Riziki.
I was just going to say everything you said is exactly what we learned in our school of Tantra, and that's what I was saying. That these are practices, regardless of the name. Okay, let's just forget about that name, Tantra. Everything you said is all geared towards building the highest potential of a relationship and yourself. And like you said, if a lot of men walked into relationships with these women, especially the kind of women who have a lack of male presence, they're going to have an automatic understanding or flag saying, okay, even though this sister fine, she's beautiful, we get along, but she may not really understand what it's like to value a man.
That's right.
We get in an argument, she may just automatically have this FU attitude because she's not used to seeing a dominant male role in the family, and then vice versa. If women knew the relationship males had with their mother, if the mother always put them down, you ain't gonna be nothing, you ain't gonna be that, then most likely this woman is gonna know he's probably gonna look for me to be his mother. He's probably gonna need for me to validate him a lot because this isn't something he got in, you know, in his upbringing. And those are the things that create defensive attitudes, or, you know, you may do something to trigger that person back into that moment, and then you wondering why you're arguing.
That's right.
So everything you said is just, girl, right on point. I love it.
Right, and that's the thing with relationships. It's always communication. Just the lack of communication makes things so much more difficult. There's people who like that whole mystery element to everything. Like, oh, they're so mysterious. I rather just figure them out as I go. No, that's how you end up getting divorced. Like, you got to know these things about people before you jump into the relationship. You got to know that there's potential in long term. But then you also have to understand that with together, there's also separation. Marriage, oh, there's a divorce to every marriage. Like, there's always potential for it, and it's also got to be okay. Not everybody is meant to be a mother. Not everybody's meant to be a father. Not every couple is meant to be parents. It's okay to have that. You know, it's just when you start putting all these pressures and ideas on certain people to, no, you have to remain married, you have to be this way, you end up letting them stay in abusive relationships. You end up letting them close communication where they can't get their thoughts and their feelings across. And like both of y'all mentioned, communication is just really huge in relationships, and we need that in just life. We just have to.
And I just back off of the in terms of divorce. You mentioned, okay, you keep your mic for me, Sister Gina, because I hear some feedback. But you mentioned that when people separate or divorce, you said that we have to realize it's not just us divorcing. You know how, like, we'll leave, like, it's over, you know, we take the kids and we're gone. But the children are going through this divorce with you. You get what I'm saying? And I think that in an abusive situation, then yes, divorce is the answer. Of course, if the person's not trying to get help and things of that nature. Because I always tell people that if you can, if there's more good, if there's more good going on in the marriage than bad, because you're always going to have your good and your bad and your pros and your cons in any relationship. So if the good outweighs the bad, don't leave the brother or don't leave the sister. You get what I'm saying? Because you got to remember, when you get into another relationship, you're carrying you into that relationship as well. So all of those issues that you had in your previous relationship, if you don't get help for them, you're carrying that into your new relationship. So you go with you wherever you go. I see the bag, sis. And so I tell brothers and sisters, try to work it out, because I think that we also have these fairy tale notions of what marriage is. And I think that leads to divorce. I have family members who are like, I'm thinking about breaking up with my boyfriend because he's not romantic. I'm like, what? Like, I'm thinking about leaving him because he doesn't plan trips for us. I always have to be the planner, or he's not romantic, and I'm like, this is not a reason to divorce or to separate, so we have to get out of this fairy tale notion of what relationships are. And one thing I can say about Polite, I mean, I could go in on him, but he said that marriage is business, family is business, and it is. You get what I'm saying? We're supposed to be building a legacy together when we come together. You get what I'm saying? It is a business, and we have to treat it as such. And you just don't run out, and throw away your business during hard times. And I just see a lot of females, and I'm just speaking from a female perspective because I am a female and I'm surrounded by a lot of females, and I hear them dogging the man out because, he loves to play video games and he doesn't pay me any attention and he's not romantic and we don't go to the movies as often as I like. And they will really step out because of that. And so I think that we also need to, again, understand what a relationship is. A lot of us grew up watching Snow White, Cinderella, what else? Beauty and the Beast, Lady and the Tramp, Beauty and the Beast, Lady and the Tramp, Snow White. And so we're waiting for this Prince Charming to come and to save us and to live happily ever after. I remember in all the books in the 80s, when you read the story in the back, and they live happily ever after. So, you hear a lot of women when something goes down, I'm not happy. I have female friends call me up. I'm not happy. What constitutes happy? Like, what is happy? What is being happy? Going to the movies? What is happy? You get what I'm saying? So I think a lot of females, when we enter relationships with men, we just have these fairy tale notions. Unrealistic. Yeah, unrealistic. Thank you, sis, because I was dancing around in my thoughts. But like you said, these unrealistic, I guess, expectations of men. And this is reality. This isn't Snow White in the seven, in the dwarfs. This is life. You get what I'm saying? You go through hardships. Yes, he may lose his job. Yes, you may lose your job. Maybe he doesn't feel like being affectionate. Maybe the brother's going through some things. Maybe you don't feel like being affectionate, but this is not a reason to step out, on your relationship. So anyway, that's all I had to say. I don't have any more. I know Sister Gina, one of the brothers, Sean P, asked if you could convert your PowerPoint presentation to a PDF. He said he wanted me to post it, so if you can convert it to a PDF, email it to me and I can post it up so that Sister Riziki can share it on her page. All the sisters can share it on their page so people can access your presentation. That would be great.
Good job.
Yeah, definitely. Great job. Great job.
Yes.
So Sister Gina, tell the people where they can find you, just in case they have additional questions on your presentation. Where can they find you?
Well, normally you can find me on Facebook, Gina Mitchell. You can find me on Twitter. I do a little blogging for anime and manga, if you know what that is. Also, I have a YouTube channel called Devil's Advocate with me and my significant other, talk about various issues as well. So you can look us up on that. And yeah, check out CUNY-VA. We need more students. We need more people to design different degrees that don't exist so that they can exist. It's like, if you can find two random things to put together and make a degree out of it, go for it. It doesn't make sense to limit yourself with the degrees that they have for you. Like, create your own, make your own, be your own doctorate, I guess you can say. So, you know, go ahead and be an individual, find yourselves, and peace, everybody.
Fantastic. Sister Raziki, tell them where they can find you, and please plug Nature's Crown. Let the brothers and sisters know, you know, about your business and how they can contact you and support you.
Absolutely. Well, family, y'all know y'all can reach me on my Facebook pages, Raziki L or Raziki Zafira. Also, my website, www.razikizafira.com. I am also starting my Awakening the Blueprint / Tantra classes in June. So open registration is now on and popping. And you know, like I said, everything we talked about, especially everything Dr. Mayat laid out as far as identifying certain behaviors and, you know, all that stuff is what I've come to know through my school of Tantra and really developing that so I myself can form better relationships, not just with the opposite sex, but with my sisters as well, in business as well. I mean, it crosses all kinds of topics, but again, that's where you can find me. I'm going to start disassociating myself here from my other business because I don't need that to interfere with my monies. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna just I'm gonna leave that out. But that's where y'all can find me. And thank y'all for tuning in. I gotta give one more round of applause to sis, man. This was so needed. This was so needed. Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Definitely. Okay, so
you drop the topic for next week, sis, because it's gonna be dope.
Oh yeah, so next week we're going to be discussing. We're bringing on a sister. What is her name? Oli Leach.
She's actually confirmed she will be here. Y'all do not want to miss this show.
No, this is going to be powerful. This is going to be powerful. A much needed conversation. We're going to be talking about, you know, child molestation in the community. We're going to be going in. You know, this sister's coming on the show to share her story. Her story has went viral on social media, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but she's going to share her story on the child molestation that ran in her family for years. She just recently took a stand and exposed the perpetrators, and she gave her statement to police. And I support this sister wholeheartedly, but this is a much needed conversation. There's a lot of demons in our community that we don't talk about. You know, and these demons get passed from one generation to the next. And sexual assaults is a demon. And I mean, it's a demon. I'm not going to say it's not in any other community, but I'm concerned with the Black community. And we have, you know, there are a lot of women and men who are victims of sexual assaults by family members and also neighbors and even strangers. And so this is a much needed conversation. We're going to have it next week. Please join us. We're going to bring the sister on. It's going to be a very, very candid moment. This sister is going to
bring some tissue.
Yes. So she's going to tell her story.
Man.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about that sexual abuse, you know, in the Black community. And so, you know, and I mean, you know, and I'm pretty sure the sisters who are present on this panel may have stories that we could bring to the limelight. So do not miss next week's Tea Talk with the sisters. My name is Dr. Oya Ma'at. That is Sister Raziki L. Sister Wakisho L was in the building earlier. Sister Alima, she's missing today. And Sister Kaba is missing today. But these are the sisters. Join us if you have any aunties, your wives. I know there are a lot of men who follow us, but please encourage your wives, your partners, your mommies, your aunties, your daughters, your nieces to join us. Each week we post a link on our Facebook pages for sisters to join the panel. So please, you know, share the show. Tell all the women that you know, because we're trying to raise the level of consciousness among the sisters. We're trying to elevate the minds of the sisterhood, because we understand that the woman is the first teacher of the child. And in order to elevate the nation, you have to elevate the woman. And so with that said, please join us every Wednesday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., 3 p.m.-ish. 3. So join us every Wednesday. Peace and Black power.
Peace.